I have been in industry for a little more than 15 years now, and my core expertise in AppDynamics is 6+ years, which includes end-to-end deployment of AppDynamics as a tool, made be on-premise or SaaS deployments. For last 3+ years, I'm AppDynamics architect working in one of the reputed organization. I have worked with various customers across the globe. First, like across the globe, when I say it means that worked with customers based out in US, Europe, India, and we're not. And been an specialized trainer for AppDynamics as a solution. So, scope of the demo. This demo essentially will cover an overview of AppDynamics, what this tool is capable of, what we can do with it. I'll demonstrate how AppDynamics captures application metrics and then how we can leverage those metrics to measure the application's behavior, application health, do an root cause analysis using AppDynamics metric, and then see how we can configure alerting and dashboarding using AppDynamics metric. This is the core outline of the entire course, wherein we'll be trying to cover all like AppDynamics like from top to bottom, starting with what is AppDynamics as a solution, what is performance management, AppDynamics business forecast, like how do we leverage AppDynamics for all the BIQ needs. We'll have a lab environment for AppDynamics wherein we will be walking you through with setting up an application, like instrumenting that application with AppDynamics, creating dashboards, alerting on AppDynamics. We'll also be running you through with the administration, FD administration, wherein you will understand how you can create a user in AppDynamics, how you can give different permission to the user. You will be instrumenting Java application, .NET application. You will also be going through infrastructure visibility part of it, wherein you will be installing machine agent with the server visibility on it. And then we will move on to our database and reporting part, right? These are few add-on topics on which we will be covering, and these are very important topics, being the business IQ. Business IQ is a feature of AppDynamics which when we can pull in business metric out of an application and then showcase it in a dashboard, which can be like used for businesses to correlate their IT performance with the business performance. We'll also be going through the AppDynamics log analytics feature, which means that how do we actually pull in logs from the server and then correlate it with the application performance. We will be going through with the end user performance, and then we'll also create a business dashboard using the BIQ data that we might have pulled in. So this is a quick introduction about my career, that what kind of project I have done. I've kept it to three most critical projects. I've done many more projects apart from these as well. All of them were from different industries altogether. Being Victor Nicholson, it is a pharmaceutical industry. Then TPI Cap, it's a investment bank, and then KDP, it was again a retailer, right? These are the few prerequisites that we would need from you for the lab setup. First and foremost, you should have a very good high-speed internet and a laptop desktop which is functional properly. Again, we would want you to have Putty and WinSCP installed on your laptop, right? That is a bare minimum that we would need from you. Apart from that, we'll try and help you with whatever we can to run through with this. I would expect you to go into a docs.appdynamics.com, and wherein it's basically called a Bible of AppDynamics, wherein you can read anything about AppDynamics and learn a lot. Whatever I cover in this course, you can go in depth, get an in depth of those in this tutorial. Once the completion of the course, I'll be running you through with 5 mock interviews. I'll try and uh, get them as close to the industry level interview that we do. I have experience of taking a lot of interviews around AppDynamics, so I'll try giving you the essence of it and try and cover interviews as seriously as it can be. And then, if you talk about my certification and my knowledge around AppDynamics, I'm like AppDynamics certified administrator. I am a certified implementation professional as well as performance analyst. Uh, so, folks, what you see in front of you is an AppDynamics console, and the flow map, the diagram that you see in front of you is called an AppDynamics application flow map. Application flow map is nothing but it's a visualization of the entire application dependency. And as soon as as soon as you put in an application agent in AppDynamics, this is automatically discovered, right? Now, this is a dynamic diagram. This depends upon two things: the way you have instrumented your application and the way you have modeled your application. You might hear a few terms like instrumentation and modeling. We will go in depth into those topics as we go more into the course. But before that, for your understanding, you can just think it of as the services and nodes in the application. Our application typically is not a single code which is running entire function of of the entire business. So we have various services which are there in the application, and each service you see here is like this is an e-commerce application, right? What a typical e-commerce application would look like: it would take orders from the users, it would have inventory management services, it would have services for e-commerce fulfillment, it would have services for order management. So you see that in this particular screen, you see this is a central node wherein the end all the tiers are like connected. And if you look at this particular tier itself, you would see that the health of this particular tier is showing as red, right, at certain point. Now, AppDynamics as a solution provides a single pane of glass view, which means that looking at this screen itself, you should be able to tell that what exactly is wrong with this particular application, right? So how does it happen? As soon as you click here, you get to, it shows you a screen which tells you a high level vitals of the application, right? So it tells you how your response time have been for the application, which means the end user who are experiencing this application, what is the overall response time that they are receiving. And if you see the response time, it shows that it's around 3 seconds, and it's pretty much in the normal range, right? It shows under the green belt, which means my application response time is fine. Going down to the next layer, which is the node level information, here I see some problems showing up, right? It shows that one of the node in my application is showing up as red, which means that there is some problem in in this node. We will go deep into this node and we'll figure out what exactly is the problem. Then looking at the other parameters of the like how my underlying servers are performing, how my database is performing right now. These are the queries which my database is performing. I mean, from this particular tier, whatever database is connected, how am I how those queries are performing, how individual business transactions are performing. We will talk more about business transaction in a minute. Then how network level parameters are performing, how incoming calls are performing, and then individual to errors. Let's go down to node and understand what is wrong with this particular node, right? If we saw that this node is showing up as red, which means that there is certainly some problem into this node. As soon as you click into this node, it would show up that this node here is showing up as red, right? If you double click on this, it will just tell you that this particular node is having certain problems. And let's go into the server level information for this particular node, right? Let's see what is wrong with this particular node. Okay, as you see, the CPU utilization on this node is it's on the higher side. It's already it's around 80% or but it doesn't look like to be a very critical problem. Let's look into the memory of utilization of this particular node, which is normal too, right? Which is normal too. The next thing that you would want to know that what is wrong with the node is, let's go into tiers and nodes. Let's look into e-commerce service, split it down, and you can click on this particular health rule, right? You can just click on this particular health rule, and it would say that what exactly is wrong with this node, right? As soon as you click on this health rule, it would show you that CPU at the AppDynamics has detected a problem with CPU utilization too high. Now, as we looked into the network level, sorry, server level information, we saw that its CPU utilization is on the 80%, right? It's on 80%. We can further drill down. We can see, look into this, that when this CPU utilization started violating. So if you, this is a timeline which shows that what happened to this particular node, right? So if you look at this particular timeline, if you can see that at 6:05 India time, this CPU utilization started violating at the warning state, right? Which means that the alert became warning at 6:06, right? Just after 1 minute, this CPU utilization became 90%, right? Again at 6:09, it again came down to 7, the warning status. Until now, it is running as warning status, right? Which means in last 30 minutes, we have seen a deviation in this node behavior, and AppDynamics tells you exact timeline of when this problem started to happen. Now let's look into the this was more from the infrastructure side of it. Let's start looking into the application from business side of it, right? Business, how application performance is impacting business altogether. So AppDynamics by its nature, right? It's a I mean, as I told you, that it looks into the application from top down approach, which means that if there is a problem with the application, what business function is getting impacted, right? The application that we took here as an example was an e-commerce application. And if you look into this particular screen, you would see that it is showing in me that how individual business functions in my application, right? Maybe as it's an e-commerce application, how my add to cart is performing right now, how my login is performing right now, how my view items is performing right now, how my update order is performing right now. So if an individual user is trying to do some certain functions, how these functions are performing right. Now, if you look at this particular update order, right, you see that the update response time of this update order is pretty high, and it is also breaching the threshold. So anybody who is owing this business would want to know what is wrong with update order, right? Because update order is pretty important. Being in e-commerce business, it's very important. So as soon as you click on that business transaction, what you see here, that the entire flow map got updated for in context of one business transaction, right? All the now not all component in these applications are not showing up. Only those components are showing up which are responsible for getting update order transaction successful, right? So if you look here, this particular flow map itself, you would be able to figure out certain things. So you see, these are dotted lines, dotted line talking to each other. These dotted lines are nothing but the asynchronous communication. Asynchronous communication is nothing but wherein the sender and receiver of a call are in a asynchronous communication, which means that both of them need not be available at same point in time. Sender will drop a message to a queue and receiver will receive it. Similarly, if it's an API call which is happening here, it is again this particular service will not wait for this API to respond. It will just send this and forget. Similarly, you see a strong line, right? Database. So if this particular service is trying to make a database call, database has to be available for this transaction to be successful, right? Because it cannot happen that this database this service drops a message or send a message and database is not available, and whenever database comes back, it will respond to it. It has to be available at same point in time. Now, as we discussed, let's figure out what's wrong with this particular transaction. We saw that the response time is pretty high for this transaction. So what you see here on the right hand side, this is called a transaction scorecard, right? Which means for this particular transaction, update order transaction, out of all the transactions which have been received, what are the I mean, how many of those transactions fall under the normal status? How many of those transactions fall under the slow status? How many of those transactions fall under the very slow status? What does that mean? That mean that AppDynamics understands your application behavior. Based on that, it does a stack ranking of those transactions, and it gives you that these transactions which are under very slow, like around 15% of transactions are very slow. Let's understand why this transaction is under very slow, right? What we can do, we can go into transaction snapshot. Now you would ask me, what is a transaction snapshot, right? Transaction snapshot is an end-to-end view of one particular transaction. Just think it of as an in a highway. You have a traffic camera which is watching all the vehicles which are passing through, and only those vehicles which breaches certain threshold, right? that traffic camera captures the image of those vehicle, including driver, vehicle number, and everything. All these details about that particular vehicle, right? Similarly, AppDynamics watches each and every transaction, but only those transactions which breach certain threshold. FD captures an end-to-end view of those particular transactions. And once you click on this particular transaction, what you would see is again a different screen which tells you this is one particular transaction. Now, this is one particular transaction. In the last screen, we saw a similar flow map which was an aggregation. This is for one particular transaction, and exactly here we can figure out what did cause this transaction to slow down, right? If you look at this particular screen, it says that the execution time of this particular transaction was 35 seconds. Now, here is the breakup, here are the potential issues in the application. In the left hand screen, you see what are the potential issues in my application. FD has a machine learning algorithm which essentially understands your application's behavior, and based on that, it gives you these are the potential issues in my application. So either you can click here and drill down into call graph to figure out what happened, or you can drill down from here. You just click on drill down. As soon as you click on drill down, it will take you to the entire call graph of this application, right? What happened, who called what, and will give you exact line of code where this problem happened. So if you look at this call graph, this shows what are the methods, classes being called, invoked as a part of this transaction. And here you see, right, this line of code, get connection at hikari data source dot get connection at line number 128 in my code is has taken 36% of entire transaction time. And this is a JDBC call. Let's click on this and see what this call was. So this looks like it was trying to get a pooled connection from a data source, right? To do that, it got 12 seconds of time. So similarly, I have three more uh, calls in this particular stack trace, which shows me that I most of the time was lost during these transactions, right? These executions. Now, this information is called a root cause analysis, right? Now I exactly know why my application slowed down and why did this happen, or why did what can I do to fix it, right? Now I can go to my database admins and give this information and they'll fix it. Without app dynamics, this kind of analysis was almost very difficult because it takes a lot of time to get to this level of information. FD, as it understands your application behavior, it gives you that these are the loopholes or the potholes in my application. Now, how do FD decides, right, that this is a normal, this is slow, this is very slow. So it what it essentially does, any metric that falls into or which FD captures, we dynamically or app dynamics dynamically baseline those metric. What does that mean? That baselining is right, you define that what is normal, what is abnormal for one particular metric, right? Now dynamic baseline means that as soon as a metric is captured and comparing your application's behavior, you cannot compare, or you cannot say for example, this is an e-commerce application, right? So in e-commerce application, the traffic that lands on Friday evening or say Saturday afternoon cannot be equal to a kind of traffic which lands on Monday afternoon, right? Everybody being in office, everybody is busy, they don't spend too much time on e-commerce. So the kind of traffic, kind of application behavior changes during the days, like hours of the day and day of the week. So based on that, AppD compares those metrics, right? Say AppDynamics compares Monday morning performance to Monday morning, Saturday afternoon performance, Saturday afternoon. So it is called based on data seasonality and based on the the kind of changeability of the data. It compares relevant data so that the alerts and notification which get generated are relevant and are useful for the customer, right? So they know that okay, if my app dynamics is telling if my application is slow, it actually is slow because FD understands my application behavior. Now, how we can decide, right? There's something called alerting and alert and respond. How we can decide, or how we can create thresholds for us, we can create using something called an health rule and policy. So app dynamics has something called an health rule, actions and policy. Health rule is nothing but wherein we tell FD that what is normal and what is abnormal for my application, right? I always I we can create an alert basically, and define what is normal. Say for example, if your application response time is going beyond 5 seconds, FD should consider is an violation, right? Similarly, you can use the standard deviations which FD calculates to create those health rules, right? And once those health rules start violating, you know that what is that your application is abnormal, right? How do you create a health rule? It's very simple. You just go to this panel, give the name of the health rule, use data points, what kind of data you want to use, like what is the duration of data you want to use. Then again, you go to affected entities, wherein you tell that which data are you measuring, right? Business transaction data, tier node data, or any kind of server data, or whatever data you are measuring. Then you define a critical criteria. What is normal and what is abnormal, right? What should FD measure? Which metric should FD measure, or to compare it? And then critical criteria is something which FD would like consider as a failure. Similarly, what is our warning criteria, right? This is what like say bef- not always you would be worried, right, when the application's already failed. You would want to get alerts when you still have time to fix it, right? So we can create a warning situation as well, so that we get some time to fix it before it actually becomes alert, right? It becomes a catastrophe. Similarly, once this information is captured, right, you can essentially create something called a dashboard for yourself, right? So you can create a dashboard using metrics which you pull in from various data points. You can create those dashboards, you capturing those metric, and uh, this is something we'll go deeper into as we go during the courses, because you would need a lot of information around playing around with app dynamics before creating dashboards and reports. I think this is all for today which I wanted to cover. I'll pass it over to Prasanna. Thank you. All right, so let's look into the another connotation of application performance, which is called an end user monitoring. Application performance, right? What is important is to measure the performance of the application from end user perspective as well. Now, what does an end user means? End user is somebody who is actually uh, using that application, right? And a user who is accessing the application on browser or mobile. So AppDynamics has a feature which is called an end user monitoring, and using that end user monitoring, we can essentially measure the application's performance from end user perspective. Sorry. So end user monitoring essentially works on the principle of JavaScript injection, which means that in the browser pages we inject a JavaScript which measures the application's KPIs, right? Which measure the application KPIs from various perspectives. If you look at it, this particular screen, this talks about how has end user performance been over the globe. Again, based on the total number of pages which are being served, what are the number of browsers from which the users are accessing this application. Going down, this is a distribution chart of the end user response time distribution chart, which means what number of users have got optimum performance. Then again, what are the users who have got bad performance. We will further drill down into it, and again going down into what kind of devices my users are using, what are the number of page requests which a user is using. What is important is to look into the geo dashboard. This is a heat map of an application, right? Heat map of an application, which means out of all the users who are accessing my application globally, what is how is their performance being how is my application being performing across the globe, right? If you look at this particular screen itself, you would be able to tell that my application performance in South Africa or my application performance in Argentina is pretty uh, it's not pretty normal. But if compared to my application performance over India and my application performance over Ireland. So it shows that based on the kind of performance, kind of errors which my application is expecting is showing up, shows how my application is performing over the globe. Most importantly, what is most important is to have an ability to drill down into any user session, right? Drill down into any user session, which means, say for example, my application is having a problem, right? Which my end user is having a fair problem. So I should be able to actually drill down. I should be able to map it down end to end, that what happened to that particular user performance. For example, if you look at this particular session, this session that says that this was a very slow session for my end user, and it says my end user took almost 21 second to in fact 22 seconds to get response for him, right? As soon as you click on this particular session, it will tell you that where did you lose time, right? If you look at this particular screen itself, it says that the end user response time was 21 seconds, out of which 20 seconds was the time which took the DOM to get routed. DOM is nothing but document. It's called document object model. Well, the way by which your browser actually creates the page for yourself, right? Similarly, uh, it gives you further information as well, right? How much time did the first byte of information was received? Again, what was the time in which server response is available? In this case, it looks like it was a slowness which was coming from backend, and it was coming from the server side, right? Now, you would want to know, let me pull up a better example. You would want to know the end to end, which particular transaction, or why, on the backend side actually caused this problem, right? So you would see that the entire transaction snapshot, look into the entire transaction snapshot. They are all like, what are the key performance indicators of what during that